Welcome back, everybody, to a brand spanking new, fresh, hot off the... Well, actually not, because it hasn't been made yet, so I wouldn't say it's hot off the presses. You are here on the presses for a spanking brand new episode of For Azeroth with me, Garrett Weinzierl, and Jocelyn Moffett sitting over there. We are back from BlizzCon, which was a little while ago, but there was some traveling and some sickness and whatnot in there. But yeah, hey, Joss, we're back for like a surprise podcast.
Boom! Surprise!
Yeah. I mean, we alluded to the fact that we were probably going to come back after BlizzCon and talk some Warcraft because you and I were both like, yeah, there's going to be an expansion. Of course. There's no way we don't get...
Exactly.
No way we don't get an expansion announcement at BlizzCon. And we can just go ahead and give ourselves a big old pat on the back because we were right. We were so right. It was a big limb to go out on. It was a Teldrassil-sized limb to walk out on and be brave and proclaim, we guess, a Warcraft expansion. That's exactly what we got. So John, let's do a little BlizzCon overall talk. Let's kind of like, let's relax. You know, we're not here to dig into nitty gritty Hearthstone cards. We're not here to scratch our heads at how Overwatch somehow did a slightly better job than Heroes at what Heroes is supposed to be doing with the Blizzardland map. But BlizzCon overall, like, how'd you like it?
Man, it was intensely fun, I think is the best way to put it, because like sitting in that opening ceremony, and I mean, like, you can see the images behind us. Clearly, you guys know what side we fall on, but watching the cinematic for Warcraft surrounded by like 30,000 of my closest friends and having everyone scream and cheer, like the energy in the room when Sylvanas yells for the Horde, it was like mind-blowingly amazing this year.
Yeah, because have you ever been to a BlizzCon for an expansion announcement? I'm not even sure I have, now that I think about it.
I think Legion, because I've been to 4 BlizzCons.
Well,
so
Legion wasn't announced at BlizzCon. We already knew about Legion
Legion
going
was
in.
that thingy.
At Gamescom, wasn't it?
Yeah. So no, I don't think I've actually been to an expansion announcement then, because the one before that would have been Warlords, and yeah, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Because I remember being there when they replayed the Cataclysm cinematic, and that was the Geek Is year, and that was just like, they have nothing to tell anyone. They blew all their news ahead of BlizzCon, and they're just like, hey, who wants to re-watch this cinematic with really loud audio that's already out? That was basically what they did, and so it wasn't nearly as thrilling. I think I was there for the Pandaria announcement, but I just don't remember it. Huh. And I love Pandaria, although at the time I was kind of scratching my head.
I was not there for Pandaria.
And now I'm wondering, again, did they even announce Pandaria at BlizzCon? I think that actually might have been a Chinese event now that I'm thinking about it.
Not sure.
Man, I'm real fuzzy on my Warcraft announcements.
Well, to be fair, BlizzCons tend to go by very, very quickly. They are insane overloads of information. It's like everything that you love and passionate about has something new and something cool going on. And especially this year with Warcraft, holy hell, they are way, way, way further along than I think anyone thought they were going to be. Like, this feels like we're going to get the expansion next summer, which is like 2 years after the release of Legion. It's insanely fast in a very, very good way. I haven't felt necessarily overwhelmed in Legion. Like, I feel like the pacing and the timing of the content has been really good. So the idea that they're, showing us zones, showing us cinematics, showing us races and detailing islands and all of the other information that we got at BlizzCon, like, this isn't a concept. This is far beyond concept. This is like early 2018 beta stuff that we're talking right now.
Yeah, which is absolutely crazy. And at BlizzCon, I mean, they showed us every zone. Small portions of every zone, but every damn zone in this game. By the way, I'm going to correct myself. Mists of Pandaria was announced at BlizzCon 2011. Thank you, chat room. I was also Googling it in the background. And so was Draenor. No wonder I don't remember Draenor, though.
When was Draenor announced? Because
2013. So you were there for that, I think, weren't you? Maybe?
No, I think 13 was the first one I missed. Like, the first one when we were doing TAC that I missed, I think was 2013.
Right. Yeah, because we were on, we were going into the 5th episode of The Angry Chicken.
Right.
For BlizzCon 2013.
That was all the way back in 2013, dude.
Again, I was in my 20s when we started all this crap. I am no longer in my 20s.
Yeah. So yeah, no, this is my first actual expansion announcement at BlizzCon then, and just, I mean, that whole cinematic, it was incredible, and it was the kind of thing. I think we actually had a listener write in a while ago saying how he missed the feeling of being a cog in the machine, how we had grown too huge, and he wanted the focus to be put back onto the Alliance versus Horde conflict. And oh my God, like, he basically called the expansion.
I mean, those are pretty broad strokes.
They are, yeah.
They're very broad strokes, and I would say the concept of this expansion are the broadest strokes we've had in a very long time. Burning Crusade was Illidan, Frozen Throne, Arthas, Cataclysm, Dragon Dude, Deathwing. Couldn't think of the name for a second. And so on and so forth. There's always a very kind of specific concept, usually based around a villain, and in Draenor it was time travel, and also boring you to death with garrisons. So,
well, and I feel like they've done that on purpose. So basically, we found out at BlizzCon the next expansion, Battle for Azeroth, it's pitting the Alliance versus the Horde. The cinematic was the battle for Lordaeron. So we have, you know, the Alliance being led by a paladin, priest, warrior, Anduin.
It's Anduin, yeah. I mean,
I know it's Anduin,
he's
but
wearing
I'm just trying to
plate.
figure out what to call him.
Oh no! Let's get into this. Let's get into this. All right. He wields the light. He is now wearing plate armor. He's a paladin.
Blizzard has said he's not a paladin.
Yeah,
so
Blizzard's wrong. That's all right.
Saying he's a priest, but anyways,
I still love you, Blizzard, but you're wrong. Unless a feature in the hidden bullet points you didn't show us are priests can use plate mail in Battle for Azeroth, then he's a paladin.
Yeah. So yeah, we had the Alliance being led by Anduin, the Horde being led by Sylvanas. The Alliance is sieging Lordaeron, and it was this crazy, insane battle scene where the Horde is losing, and then Sylvanas like does such a Lord of the Rings inspired Legolas kind of move, like takes down this big battle tower, and then turns in to a literal banshee.
Yeah.
What?
It was something I hadn't realized that I'd been questioning for so long. Like, I played Warcraft 3. That is where my love for Blizzard in general began. I played stuff before then, but it was StarCraft on the N64, and that game sucked. That port of that game sucked. StarCraft's amazing. But I played Warcraft 3. I controlled Sylvanas as a Banshee. And then, you know, I was very excited when I first started dipping my toes into Horde play in World of Warcraft, because I started Alliance and played Alliance for many years. But seeing Sylvanas, that was something I was just like, oh man, shit, that's the chick that Arthas like stole her soul, turned into a banshee. She escaped, and now she's the leader of this freaking undead. How cool is that? And I was like, Banshee Queen. Oh, that's cool because she was a banshee once. Once I saw her turn back into a banshee, instantly I go, oh yeah. Why haven't we ever seen this before? Like, how come we've never seen banshee powers out of Sylvanas?
We haven't really seen too much of Sylvanas when she's kind of been like pushed to the limit and could possibly lose. Like, we've seen her battle before. We've seen her, you know, we saw her in Legion, obviously, in the cinematic where Varian dies. We saw her, you know, with the stuff with Greymane and Stormheim, but we haven't really seen her pushed to the brink before, and I feel like that's why other than they probably just didn't really think about it too much, but from a lore perspective, pretending we're in the world, perhaps she just needed to be pushed to the extreme to really feel like she was going to lose, because she hasn't really lost yet. So no. She's had to retreat, she's had to try, you know, go back, but she had her back against Undercity. Her ability to retreat was gone. So I feel like that's maybe the Banshee power is the kind of thing that, you know, it costs her something to use, or, you know, something like that. It's really cool. I wish she had the ability in Heroes of Storm, to be honest.
Yeah, I want an update.
Forget mind control.
Get rid of mind control. No one uses. Well, actually, some people do use it to great effect. But just give her a third heroic. Let's just give her a third heroic Banshee form. It's gonna be great. But you know, you're right. I would say for the most part, in game, the Sylvanas we have seen is political in nature. She's just a leader. We have, besides the one fight scene we've seen with Greymane, courtesy of Legion being a badass expansion, we haven't really seen her throw down. And although now I look at this and I'm like, well, it's kind of like R2-D2 rocket boosts in the prequels. You know, why didn't he have those in the original films? I think I think it's just, well, it's cool and we just not thought of it, so we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably what really happened.
Totally okay with. But yeah, so then we get the whole Anduin does the mass res thing, which was crazy, and just the whole entire thing was an amazing, amazing cinematic that sets up the battle between the factions. And a lot of people are, I think some people were kind of confused. Because this wasn't kind of where they'd been pointing us. But I think, Garrett, you mentioned the fact that they've been a little bit vague about where this expansion is going. And the only real hint that we got was the one of the raid bosses shown to us was Queen Azshara. And I feel like they're being intentionally vague because I still feel that we're going to get a N'Zoth expansion. I feel like it's this one.
I do too.
I think that the expansion is going to start with the conflict between the Alliance and the Horde, but it's going to culminate in the release of N'Zoth and us having to deal with what happens after.
I'm of the belief that many of the greatest things in World of Warcraft were kind of left out of the pitch. Ulduar from Frozen Throne was not on anybody's radar when Frozen Throne was... You mean
from Lich King? You said Frozen Throne. You're in Hearthstone.
Whatever. Whatever. I'm in Hearthstone land.
Yeah.
Ulduar from that. I mean, basically anything in vanilla. We were just getting into the game. We didn't really know what to expect, and that's when we got things like Cthulhu was in that, for example. Right. Miss Pandaria. I did not think that we were going to end with a civil war in raiding Orgrimmar as the final raid. And even in Legion, I was just like, oh yeah, it's going to be all about Illidan and Gul'dan. Oh wait, no, never mind. We're going to try and kill a god, is apparently what we're going to try and do in Legion. And these are all some of the strongest things I think that have been accomplished in World of Warcraft from a story aspect and just from a gameplay aspect. All of the raids centered around the things I just kind of rattled off, I think are some of the major hallmarks of World of Warcraft. So I'm that's where my head's at. I'm thinking this is kind of a reset to vanilla in a new way, as opposed to the fact that we also got Warcraft Classic announced, or World of Warcraft Classic. Like we're going back to, this is just on Azeroth. I mean, we're on Azeroth now already, but this has been a very Legion focused, very otherworldly focused expansion, especially in the latter half of its life. And this is looking like at least we're going to start just, again, very grounded. It's going to be about the power struggles, but I think eventually we're going to uncover something in those oceans.
I agree. And I feel like, so we know now, it was revealed in an interview that at the start of the expansion, the Horde, which I'm a little bit disappointed in, but whatever, the Horde is the one to burn Teldrassil before the Alliance attacks Lordaeron, which is what is in the cinematic and is what is going to be the pre-expansion event.
Wait, they confirmed that shit?
Yeah, that's confirmed.
Oh,
yeah.
What the heck? They left it like purposefully vague during the con, and I've read at least 3 interviews since then about that topic, and they kept it vague. What interview did I miss?
I can't remember off the top of my head now, but I think it's linked on Wowhead. Okay. I can't remember which outlet it was. It was like PC Gamer or something, and basically they said, they were talking about the cinematic. And he said, yeah, that's the point where the Alliance decides that they've had enough right after the burning of Teldrassil. And I was like, no!
Gotcha.
Why is this happening?
Okay, all right. Well, we don't know why, right? There could be any multitude of reasons. I mean, the Alliance are already pissed off at the Horde because they blame the Horde for the death of Varian, and we know it was not really the Horde's fault. Which is why I wanted
them to be responsible for attacking Lordaeron first. I felt like that would make a lot of sense. But like we were talking about the old gods, I mean, there's an entire Hearthstone expansion called Whispers of the Old Gods, because that's what they do, is they, whisper, get in your head, play all these kind of mind games and manipulate people into doing things that they wouldn't otherwise do. And that's all to further the Old Gods agenda, which has usually become more powerful and break out because they've been imprisoned for 15,000 years. So I feel like there could be a lot of different explanations for it. I hope it's not just like screw you, we want power because, like, it's such a tired, cliche type story in Warcraft, right? Like, I really hope it's something along the lines of, like, the tree is corrupted, and because it's the portal into the Emerald Dream / Emerald Nightmare, maybe there's something there with why they had to burn the tree. Maybe it is, like, because it's kind of not in the shot that you have behind you, Garrett, but there's another image that basically shows it kind of all, like, shiny and stuff, which people are saying could potentially be Azerite, which is the new resource in this expansion. So there's a possibility that it's being, you know, kind of almost like corrupted by Azeroth itself. I feel like there's got to be a reason to burn the tree that is serving Azeroth as opposed to just serving the Horde and Sylvanas' quest for power. That's what I hope anyways, because if they just say, Sylvanas is power hungry, blah, 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 I don't want to play that story. I want it to have some shades of gray, I guess.
Yeah, I did not read into the glowing tree, by the way, as anything other than Night Elf trees glow, and this was art, so it glows in a prettier fashion than we see in game. But
could be.
But yeah, I feel that there's shades of gray to this. I don't think Sylvanas just got up one morning and was just, you know what I feel like doing? What do you feel like doing, Sylvanas? I feel like burning Teldrassil. Let's just burn it to the ground.
She did want to, so the other piece of information that we have about the events between kind of now in the World of Warcraft and the burning of the tree we have a book coming from Christy Golden. Oh, I love her. Anyways.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this. Christy Golden and I are like best buds now. We got to sit next to each other during the opening ceremony, and
I'm so jealous of that.
Talked about how cool it is that she just got hired by Blizzard.
But we do have a book coming out that is going to do the same thing War Crimes did, kind of breach the gap between expansions before the pre-expansion event. I'm very, very excited about it. Excuse me, sorry.
That's how excited about it you are.
What?
So you're so excited about it takes your breath away.
Exactly. So the book is coming out, and if you attended BlizzCon or if you ordered the swag bag, you actually got the prequel to the novel. And in the prequel of the novel, that kind of hints to a faction within the Forsaken that are angry at Sylvanas for the events of Stormheim. They're basically like, damn it, woman, let us die. We don't want to live forever. Like, we just want to die. And so there's kind of, I think they're called the Desolate Council or something like that. It's a faction within the Forsaken that has basically kind of been ruling Undercity in Sylvanas' absence while she's been busy being war chief. And it actually gave a really interesting kind of insight into Sylvanas and her character, because she's really torn right now because she feels like the Horde, and I've heard this from so many people, the Horde is telling her that she's, you know, not doing enough as war chief, and she's putting her people first. And then her people are on the other end of it in Undercity saying that she abandoned them. And she's just like, I don't know what you people want. Like, I can do no right, basically. So it's an interesting insight into her. But it also alludes to her kind of wanting to invade Stormwind, which I thought was kind of odd. So it doesn't, like, obviously it's just the prequel of the whole entire book that's going to tell us how and why we burn the tree. But it's interesting. The whole kind of setup. I'm hoping it's not just like, I don't know, Sylvanas doing Sylvanas things, or what they seem to be writing as Sylvanas things lately. I want it to be like her trying to save the world.
Yeah, there needs to be some type of catalyst for it beyond hatred, because otherwise, in my eyes, it just makes the Horde the bad guys.
Exactly, and that's another thing that a lot of people, because I tweeted about this, and that was the response from a lot of people. Well, the Horde are the bad guys. No, we're not.
No,
guys.
No, they're not.
It's not the bad guys. Neither is the Alliance. There is no bad guys. That's what makes Warcraft so interesting, is there are two factions with different histories and different beliefs, and they are not good or bad. They do both good and bad things, and they fight because they often see things in a different way. Doesn't mean that either one of them is good or bad.
Right. Or one oversteps, and both have overstepped multiple times throughout the story of Warcraft. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I had an interesting kind of reaction to all this too, because as you know, I kind of ride the line. I don't really consider myself Horde or Alliance, because I've played both, and there are things I very much like about both. I mean, all of my mains right now are Horde, because that's where all my friends play. for the most part.
Right.
But the second they showed that image of Taldrassil burning, I was just like, oh, I'm gonna kill me some Hordes. You're gonna die for this, because my very first tune was a Night Elf, and I just like snapped back into like Alliance mode when I saw that artwork.
I think that a lot of people had that reaction, and I understand that reaction, because it's like, if you start your character, whether it's your first character or whatever, like when you start characters, you get very attached to your starting cities, your starting zones, like that feel of being whatever race it is that you've chosen. So seeing your home, and there are a lot of Night Elf players. I think like I think everyone on the Alliance side starts as a Night Elf. Some Horde players start as Night Elves. That just for some reason they were the kind of go-to race. Everyone likes them.
I can't wait until you realize the magnitude of gnome fans that are going to come out.
Okay, that's
they're going to come out of the woodwork. Like literally, they can live under a log. They're so tiny. But they're going to come out. They will make themselves known, Jocelyn. Get ready for tweets.
I know. But it seems like Night Elves are one of the most popular races. So it's interesting that that's the home that they chose to take away in this move. And I think that was enough to rally a lot of players to an Alliance versus Horde cause. It was a oh hell no moment for a lot of Warcraft players.
Yeah, I felt snapped into faction rah-rah basically, even though I'm still playing Horde. But I'm in the background just going, am I gonna level Alliance? I think I might level Alliance in Battle for Azeroth. Like, first of all, I think their zones. I mean, eventually we get to go to all zones, no matter what faction you're at. But I find these zones that the Alliance are getting as their questing zones as they level up, more in line with my aesthetic, things that I look for. Like you get like pirate port towns. I want to go hang out in a pirate port town so bad that I'm really like thinking, oh my God, I think I'm going to go Alliance for the first time in a long time.
Well, and you've said that, I feel like, since almost maybe even Mists of Pandaria, like way before we even started doing the show, just that the Horde aesthetic doesn't appeal to you. Like from an artistic standpoint, you don't necessarily like the Horde aesthetic, especially when we went to Orc
and Tauren for the most part, because they're just very, it's not high fantasy enough for me, right. I guess. The Orcs have gotten a little bit better. They're leaning a little bit into that Tolkien-esque with like the big iron spikes and stuff, but still not quite to the point where I'm just like, wow, that looks great. If now that Sylvanas is the war chief, if they just glaze over everything with the undead motif, I'm in. I'm all in, because I love the motif, especially I don't believe you were playing at the end of Burning Crusade going into Icecrown, but
I was not.
But once we got Northrend, we got new Forsaken buildings. That's when we first ever got those buildings with like the Tesla coils, and that's the first time that model was ever added to the game. And then I was really on board at that point. Yeah, I don't know. And
the
Blood
only
Elves.
thing that
I love Blood
I don't
Elves.
like about the undead aesthetic, I kind of wish it was just like Nightmare Before Christmas, like that kind of Burton-esque stuff. But they cover everything in green slime because of the stupid plague crap. Like.
Do they? I think it's just Undercity, and that's very much a holdover from Vanilla. I don't think they had found their Forsaken like art direction yet in Vanilla, and they hadn't found it in Burning Crusade. And then bam, Northrend gets here.
I just want like kind of creepy. I guess Brill is kind of a good example. There's not too much slimy stuff there. Yeah,
and they've updated that with those new building models that are actually from Northrend, and that's when I really started to get on board with the Forsaken motif. Obviously, Blood Elf, huge Blood Elf fan, big into the High Elves from Warcraft 3. That was the thing that made me swap to Horde, was when the Blood Elves came to the Horde. But you don't see any of that really, especially if you're a Blood Elf player. I am, and I don't role play specifically, but I try. That's part of what I enjoy about it.
Yeah, what race you chose is part of your game.
Yeah, right, exactly. So like as a Blood Elf player, I feel like I'm always just hanging out like in the dirt pit. I'm just like, man, I left my beautiful city for this.
Yeah.
Like. So I don't know.
Yeah, I wish that we had more Blood Elven, High Elven sort of aesthetics in areas that the Horde frequents. That would be probably one of my biggest complaints as well. We got some in like Azuna in Legion, but still, like I would like it to be somewhere that we are spending significant amounts of time. Like,
Yeah.
not that I want them to actually like move our capital city or whatever, but the fact that our capital city is Orgrimmar is kind of crappy aesthetically, anyways. But I feel like we can't talk too much about races and, you know, feelings of Horde and Alliance without mentioning the fact that we get 6 new races in Battle for Azeroth.
Playable
crap,
races. Playable races, and more to come, according to what the developers were talking about at BlizzCon and after the fact in multiple interviews. Yeah, this is something that pulls me very in. Like I'm very if you haven't noticed, I'm extremely superficial in what I enjoy about Warcraft, man. It's all about my races, my armor, the towns I'm hanging out in, what the zones look like. Like I love the art, I love the world, I want to be in it. And I remember being there playing vanilla when Burning Crusade got announced, and they're just like, oh, by the way, we're adding Blood Elves to the Horde, we're adding Draenei to the Alliance, and we're those classes that you guys couldn't play that were faction specific, none anymore. You can play them on both sides. We were losing our minds. We're like, holy crap, there's new races. Ah. And I'm sitting there as the elf fanboy being like, but I have to play Horde? I don't know, man. I don't know. Also, that doesn't make sense. Kael'thas was pretty buddy with the Alliance. What's going on here? But so I always get excited when there's new playable races added, and this is something I've wanted forever. Ever since Burning Crusade, which is the first time in World of Warcraft we ever came across brown-skinned orcs that weren't, you know, tainted in any way, shape, or form. I wanted a brown skin tones as an option for my orcs. I also would love red ones because the fel orcs, are like super badass looking, but also wouldn't necessarily make sense from a lore aspect. But it would make a lot of sense.
But it would look cool, so
right.
Do it.
But it would make a ton of sense to have brown skin orcs all the way back to Burning Crusade, because that's when we started seeing them in this timeline. Not to mention Draenor, for crying out loud. I was really surprised when Draenor was announced, and they weren't just like, I get it. It's not something that you lead with in the opening ceremony, like, and 3 new skin tints for orcs. Like but during the course of it, I was very surprised that didn't happen, and they're really addressing a lot of that through these new races, because the majority of them, from what I've seen, share the same basically like rig or skeleton. In 3D animation terms, from someone who knows almost nothing about 3D animation, as races as playable races that already exist in the game. We're getting Dark Iron Dwarves. They're based off of the dwarf model that is already in the game, but now we get to make ourselves look like we're Dark Iron.
Well, and they have their own racials, right? So they're not exactly just another skin tint. They've gone kind of all the way with these characters, because we've got, you know, kind of like quest lines and possible reputation grinds that you're going to have to do to unlock these characters. They actually said in another interview, and I wish I'd made more notes and had all the actual sources in my head, but there was another interview where they were talking about, like, if you want to play like a High Mountain Tauren, for example, it's a very good idea to get exalted with that faction in Legion. So that's something you can kind of work on right now. Same with if you want to play like a Lightforged Draenei, then you should probably be doing something like becoming exalted with the Army of the Light. So there are things that your main character can kind of be working on now in that have kind of been hinted at as things you can do to unlock these characters. There's going to be, basically they said, questing to do, and you have to solve the race's problem in order to make them playable. So it sounds like you kind of have to resolve their story so that it frees up that faction to come and help you, and then you can make a character on the, you know, gamified side of that. So it seems really, really interesting. I, for one, am so excited about Zandalari Trolls. Like, they announced Zandalari Trolls and I lost my mind.
That is the one I'm the most impressed by overall. I've always really liked Trolls. Actually, some folks were asking in the chat room during my rant about not being the biggest fan of orc and Tauren aesthetics. I do like the troll aesthetic because I just want to go vacation there. I want to go sit in a troll hammock on the beach side and just relax. And I've always thought trolls are super cool, just in general. Like, you know, Vol'jin was a badass. But I've never been able to get past the fact that they have giant flipper toes and horrible scoliosis. They're just so bent over all the time, like most.
And neither one of those things really bothers me. I think trolls are really cool. The reason why I've never actually, and I'm sure they're going to double down on it with Zandalari trolls, so it's probably not going to make a difference, but I can't stand the voices and the acting, like the Jamaican accent.
Oh, come on. You got to get down with the Jafaican. You got to love the Jafaican accents. They're wonderful.
No.
I love them. It's so endearing.
So cringy.
I just went through the Broken Shore scenario again because I was trying out a warrior because I have come to the decision that I just hate my mains right now. I don't like them. I think I'm gonna do it. I think I'm gonna splurge and spend the $60 on a boost and just boost that damn warrior because I love it. But just hearing Zul'jin talk to Thrall, like I love it. It's great. But anyway.
You mean Vol'jin?
Vol'jin, whatever. You know what I mean.
One of those gins.
Yeah, let's have
trolls alike to you, Garrett.
Let's have two hulking trolls that play big roles in two tentpole series of Blizzard games and make this. There are 2-syllable names and the second syllable is exactly the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one's ever gonna mess that up. My big point is, I'm a big art fan. I have almost every Blizzard art book ever released. And there's so many rad pieces of art of trolls standing upright. And there's rad trolls in-game standing upright. We just can't play as them. And now I'll finally be able to play as an upright troll because they look terrifying. They're the tallest race in the game when they stand upright.
Yeah. And so this is the other thing. I kind of hope that the Zandalari trolls are, like, bigger than Tauren. Like, just huge and hulking and ginormous. That's the character I want to play.
Yeah. So from again, I keep bringing up the word aesthetic, but they should be taller, not necessarily bulkier.
Right.
So
yeah.
Tauren still are going to have more muscle mass, but if the trolls we have in game right now just stood upright, they'd be taller than a Tauren, and that's what.
Well, and that's one thing that they talked about too is more in-depth character customization. So they mentioned specifically the orcs and how they're going to have basically like a posture slider. So it sounds like even if you don't unlock Zandalari trolls, you're going to be able to basically make your orcs and your trolls stand up straight. Or if you want your blood elves hunched over for some reason.
I would just really like my blood elf to stop standing like such an ass when he's standing still. He's just got that contrapposto, just really getting that one leg out to the side. Like he's just better than everybody, or like he's got some weird wedgie in his underpants and he's trying to dislodge it without anyone noticing.
Oh, I never thought about it that way.
Getting a little too real. Like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I do at the mall.
But yeah, so we're going to be able to unlock these 6 different allied races. So obviously, Horde gets 3, Alliance gets 3, which is great. I'm kind of sad that the Void Elves went Alliance, but I kind of get it because, Valyra and Illyria are, bros. So it is what it is. We get the Nightfallen on the Horde side, which is really cool. So the Nightfallen are all the ones who come out of Suramar. So again, that's another thing that if you're wanting to play Nightfallen, you should probably work through the Suramar questline and get exalted with that faction if you aren't already. And just kind of work through that kind of stuff, which is really cool. And if you start a new allied race character, you start at level 20 instead of level 1, which makes sense because you've already kind of like played through their starting story. You've just played through it on your main. Mm-hmm. So you start at level 20, and then as you level up, if you actually level your character all the way, you get a really cool special armor set that your character can then use. And I believe any other characters of that race. But you will not be able to transmog, say, like your Nightfallen armor onto your Blood Elf. It's like a special race-specific armor set, which is super, super cool. I feel like, leveling. That was another thing that they announced. They are taking scaling leveling and applying it to the entire world. So you will be able to essentially write your own story within the World of Warcraft. You can skip entire expansions if you want to. Because the way they've done it is they've done I think 1 to 60 is basically vanilla. So as you're leveling through vanilla, you can go anywhere in the world. And then from 60 to 80, you can choose any of the zones from Burning Crusade or Wrath of the Lich King. Then from 80 to 90, you can choose any of the zones from Cataclysm and Mists of Pandaria. And then from 90 to 110, I think you can Yeah, 110 is our current max. You can do Warlords or you can do Legion, which means you never, ever, ever have to play Warlords of Draenor again.
Here's my. So apparently, I got tweeted a couple of gifts when they announced that they were adding the scaling leveling to all of World of Warcraft. Somewhere out there's a gif of me from the stream nodding in approval in the crowd as this piece of information gets dropped, because
That's amazing.
When they mentioned this and they used Westfall as an example. I love Westfall, and every time I've started leveling back through it for whatever reason, it's just halfway through it I'm just like, well, all my quests are gray. I love this storyline, but I guess I'm just gonna leave now.
And that is my biggest problem with my first 2 years probably of World of Warcraft, because as I was leveling my character, it took me a really long time to level my character because I was leveling with other people. So it was like whenever we could get together, then that was the time we had to level. So it took me a very, very, very long time to level. And there was always this decision that had to be made halfway through a zone. It's like, well, if we want to keep going and we want to keep leveling, we have to leave now. So then we would go search for a new zone, which meant we didn't finish the original story of the original zone that we went through. We had no idea why we were going to the next zone and what was actually happening and what the storyline was there, because you miss all the breadcrumbs that send you to the next place. So I had no idea. I still very, very vaguely have an idea of what the story of Vanilla Warcraft was, but I don't really 100% know, because I don't think I've ever finished to completion a zone from 1 to 60. I at least to the point I was paying attention. I think I might have my lore master of Kalimdor technically, because I just went around on my, max level character and did all the quests real quick trying to complete the lore master thing, but I wasn't actually paying attention. So to have the ability to now play through a zone without sacrificing experience, that's huge. I want to go back and level characters like right now. And Kyle Thomas in the chat room is saying that apparently this leveling change is coming in 7.3.5, which is not too far off now. So that's amazing that they're bringing it in even before the next expansion. Means that I'm going to level up pretty much all of my characters before the next expansion.
We should hang out, because I'm gonna go level a rogue immediately.
Yeah.
It's another class I always wanted to get up there, and now I'm gonna have a really good excuse to.
My rogue is level 40. I got her there through the invasions before Legion, and I'm actually thinking once I unlock the Zandalari trolls, I might just race change her and then take her from 40 the rest of the way up. Assuming that will still get me the heritage armor set. I have to make sure about that.
They are going to make a fortune off of me. With
my God,
race changes.
I know, right?
Yeah.
All my blood elves are going to become Nightfallen. Like, my undead will probably still be undead, but then, I'm going to change a whole bunch of people into trolls, and might even make a moose for the hell of it, because those Tauren are way cooler than the Tauren we have right now.
Yeah, my goal now is like 1 blood elf, 1 Nightfallen, 1 Zandalari troll. And that's that horde side. I think that's good. I think that's what I'd really like. But we didn't talk about, man, we might get other races. We might get other races, Jocelyn. And I have 2. I just have 2 off the top of my head. I just have to scream into the ether. One is very focused. Does this mean we can finally get a Dark Ranger model so I can look like the most badass agents of Sylvanas that are in the game?
Right. You can actually get the Dark Ranger hood doing a thing in the Hunter Order Hall. Like, there's like a super small little quest line that you can do in the Hunter Order Hall, and the reward is the hood. So I've got my Hunter now as close as you possibly can get to the Dark Ranger model.
But what if I want my rogue to look like a Dark Ranger?
Nope, can't.
I hate this game. I quit. I'm uninstalling. This has been fun, everybody. See you later.
Or you just unlock it on your Hunter and then use it other places.
Yeah, but wouldn't it be male if it's for Hunter?
It might be male. I can't remember now, actually.
It should be male if it's for Hunter.
Yeah.
But
Well, it should be.
Well, I guess I need to make a Hunter.
There you go.
Which was my first class, and I have been getting the itch to play again as well. I'm feeling like real altaholic right now, and I don't have a lot of time to play any games, let alone 4 separate classes in World of Warcraft.
I've been feeling kind of driven to do alts too, and I've even been feeling a little bit driven to do more alliance stuff, because it's funny because this is the expansion where they've doubled down on the whole alliance versus horde conflict, and it's probably the one where I should stay like faction oriented, but I just feel like because they've just, at least for the beginning, driven the wedge between the factions, I feel like our stories are going to be very, very different, as opposed to something like Legion, where like if you went to Azuna, there was a set of quests in Azuna, and it didn't matter if you were Alliance or Horde, that was your quest lines. Like, that was what was happening. So I feel like now those quest lines, even once you get to 120 and unlock the other factions areas, which is kind of an interesting thing too, because like if they're really, I feel like maybe the battle for Azeroth and the Alliance versus Horde isn't going to continue very far into the expansion, just because once you hit 120, you can go to the other place. But even if you can go to the other factions area, I feel like the quests that you do in those places are going to be extremely different. So it's probably going to be worth experiencing this expansion specifically as both Alliance and Horde if you want to get all the story in World of Warcraft. It seems like there's got to just be tons, right?
Yeah, and I want to know how the hell are towns going to work out in this scenario? Because if there are Alliance and Horde towns peppered all throughout Kultiris and Zandalar, when I'm Alliance and I go to Zandalar, when I'm Horde and I go to Kultiris, is there just going to be, I'm constantly going to be dodging cities that want to murder me dead?
I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how they actually implement that. And speaking of cities wanting you dead, another thing that they are totally doubling down on in this expansion seems to be PvP. They talked about how there's, they basically haven't changed PvP since 2005. They're bringing back World PvP. It's going to be super awesome. And all of the changes that they're making there, I'm so excited for, including getting rid of the idea of PvE and PvP servers. You're now going to have a toggle when you're in your capital city where you can just basically flip your character onto a PvP or a PvE server, and then you're not going to have to actually do things like server transfer or leave your guild or leave all your friends or whatever. Like, you can just go and experience questing and leveling in a PvP server, which they did also say is going to have some sort of incentive tied to it. So I would think if you're flagged for PvP while you're questing, you're going to be gaining more XP than if you were not, if you were flagged PvE. Oh, God, I'm so excited. I've always wanted to play on a PvP server, but I've never actually started a character there because none of my friends are there. I didn't want to try to find a PvP guild, all that kind of stuff. Not to mention, it's a totally different experience now than what everyone else has talked about, with everyone leveling through vanilla on PvP servers. So I'm excited to have the experience of leveling through a new expansion in a PvP server sort of environment without having to actually leave my guild. Oh God, dude, I'm so excited.
I like that that's an option. This is the biggest wait and see for me. I tried PvP servers because a few of my friends in college, which was the heyday of me spending way too much time in this game. So I did dip my toe into a PvP server, and I hated it. I hated every minute of it. It was just a bunch of level 60 griefers ruining my day as I tried to level up. I could see where it would be great right when you're getting started, and everyone's closer to the same level.
Well, yeah, because everyone's at the same level. So I feel like I'm just going to jump on my hunter day one and flag on for PvP and go just race with everyone else.
If we're on separate continents, you're never going to see anyone else.
That might be true.
Yeah, so that's just
still,
funky to me. It seems funky. And I know PvP server hardcores are a little concerned about what this means. I am cautiously optimistic. The point that resonated with me the most was that they said over the course of World of Warcraft's entire history, they have wanted to put resources into making World PvP better and something that you actually want to engage with, but because a large chunk of the game, of the population of the game, play on servers where they will never get to see content that involves World PvP, that it was just I'm a bad summary here, but basically not worth the investment.
Yeah, no, and I mean, even your summary, I think is totally fair. If the majority of your players will never see the content, it can't be prioritized. It just can't. So I feel like this is going to be great if enough people. Then I'm sure that I can't be the only person who's sitting here on a PvE server wishing I could do World PvP. So I hope that when they put the toggle in there, that all the people like me flip that switch and, you know, show them that world PvP is something that we want as players. I'm crossing my fingers. But the other PvP thing that they talked about, and it wasn't even necessarily a PvP thing, they introduced the concept of islands. So what you're going to be able to do is they are kind of like 3-man scenarios, like in Mists of Pandaria, but you're going to go to an island, and they said that I feel like the number 100 islands is in my head for some reason. I feel like that's what they said at the, or maybe it was over 100 islands. I'm not sure. But anyways, they have these islands, which are going to have you're going to get a random island with a random kind of scenario of thing happening to it. So some of the examples they gave were invasions and floods. And then on top of that, you're going to have a set of world quests. So you can go to the island scenario. They are completely role, like it doesn't matter what role you are. You don't have to have like a tank, a healer, and a DPS. You can have any mix of roles, because they've also said there's going to be consumables on the island that will let you kind of fill out your roles. So if you end up with 3 DPS players on an island, you can buy something to make one of them tanky and one of them a healer. And then so you can have like a healer mage. Like, how cool is that?
That's going to be funky. I want to see that. I want to see how that plays out, because I'm assuming it's like there's that one heal item in Heroes of the Storm, and it's just kind of like whatever.
It potentially could be. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to play out. But they did say that they've been making leaps and bounds when it comes to the PvE enemies that you're going to face there. The AI is better. There's going to be a team of AI players, 3 AI players, that are going to act like they are real players, unless you queue for it for PvP, and then they will be real players, which is, I'm so excited. They went through the whole entire like overview of islands, and then right at the very end said, or it can be PvP. And I was like, yes, 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 yes. I'm so excited, because they were talking about how the AI is going to act like real players and everything else. And I was just sitting there going, oh, I wish they could just be real players. And then they dropped the bomb right at the end, and we're like, or real players, next thing. And I was like, no, not next thing. Tell me more about that. So these scenarios, I think, are going to be really, really cool. I'm looking forward to them. They have said that the rewards from that are going to be mostly the Azerite, which is the next expansion's artifact power, for lack of a better comparison.
But no artifacts. It's just its own little thing, which I'm great with.
Artifact.
Well, no, but it's not a, like, you don't see it. You're not going to see.
It's not a weapon. It's a necklace.
You're not going to see 200
that you upgrade.
You're not going to see 200 some odd other damn paladins running around with Ashbringer. You're not going to like.
Which I think that this is the best way, I think, that they could have chosen to do it. They took a piece of gear that everyone wears, that everyone needs to have, and they said, okay, this is the thing that we're going to make the thing that you keep with you the whole time, but we're not going to make it something that's visual. So it's not going to be shoulders. It's not going to be a weapon. It's not going to be a helm. Like, we are just going to give you this necklace that you upgrade. And it's interesting, because then there are slots of armor, and they said that they're still working on balance and things. So right now it's 3, but it might be different or more or less. We'll see. But you can actually use the powers of your necklace to upgrade your other armor. So it's a really interesting concept and take on this. I really like it. They also talked about how there's not going to be any tier in the next expansion. It's going to be a different kind of, again, upgrade system, which I like. That means you're not holding on to lower eye-level gear, because the bonus on them is awesome. So, you know, no more tier, no more bonuses, no more of that crap. So they're doing really cool and interesting things with gear in the next expansion. But they did say that the islands are going to be one of the main sources of this resource that you're going to use to upgrade your artifact. They didn't, however, tell us what's actually going to happen to our artifact weapons, although one of the artifact weapons from World of Warcraft is now a Hearthstone card. So I feel like they just somehow got shrunk down, made into cards, and that's what's going to happen to all your artifact weapons, guys.
We're not getting enough weapons to cover every single artifact weapon. And some artifact weapons are already cards.
Joke, Garrett.
There are already cards, Jocelyn. We already got Doomhammer. You can put 2 in your deck. You can have 2 Doomhammers.
That's true. That's true. But yeah, so we don't actually know how they're going to retire our artifact weapons, but we do know that they will not be used. They also talked about the artifact skins. They're all still going to be unlockable, with the exception of the Mage Tower. So we are now at the point in World of Warcraft that our gear levels should be at or above the requirement for the Mage Tower. So if you want that artifact skin, guys, go do the Mage Tower. Like, we should all be trying to unlock the Mage Tower and doing the Mage Tower now, because that's going to go away at the end of the expansion. So other than that, though, all of our artifact tints and artifact model skin things are going to be available past Legion. So that was something they originally said they weren't going to do. Now they're going to do it. So you have lots and lots of time there on all of your alts.
Yeah, I'm excited about the Island Expeditions. It seems like as long as, I don't know, they just turn out not to be fun at all, that it's going to be a very good time as far as replayable content is concerned. And if it... I'm not excited about a PvP variant of that. I'm hoping that the AI is difficult and hard and poses a challenge, because I love our smaller... I love our raid, but the most fun I've had this expansion was our 5-man group running around when we were streaming for a little while, doing all of the 5-mans, and eventually we did Karazhan and called it quits, basically, and we haven't been able to get the band back together since. But,
right.
Like, it only takes 3 people? Yeah.
It only takes 3 people, and it doesn't matter what your roles are. So you could roll in with 3 tanks if you wanted to. So I think it's going to be really interesting, and it sounds like they have done a lot of work, and that they're saying that even the mobs on the islands probably won't leash. So if you pull something, you're going to have to deal with it. You can't just run away. So I don't know. I think everything that they're doing with the island sounds really interesting. And it also sounds like the sort of thing that in a PvE variant, actually in a PvP variant too, but I'm probably going to solo queue for this, because they've kind of taken away my biggest problem with solo queuing for dungeons, which is, if you're not on the absolute like cutting edge of the content, if you aren't running dungeons like all of the time, then a lot of people get really mad at you if you don't know like the perfect path through the dungeon and the perfect strat for beating the boss and everything else, and you get kicked from groups and you get yelled at and all the rest of it. But if every time you go to do a scenario, you get a different island with a different thing happening in a different set of world quests, then there is not going to be, like, I'm sure eventually someone will pull together all of the information, figure out all the variants, and then write up a big, huge guide. But realistically, most people you queue in with aren't going to know the perfect path through each of these islands, because no one's ever done it before. If you'd have to queue for literally hundreds and hundreds of these islands before you saw the same thing again. I can't even remember how many combinations they were, but I think they made a funny math joke.
They did. They made a funny math joke. I have my fingers crossed that it'll scratch the itch that I've been wanting to scratch, which is replayable dungeon-esque content. I hope it kind of scratches that dungeon itch for me.
That's what it seems like.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to see. I was really excited for scenarios, and they were awful. They were so bad.
Well, but they seem to be combining a lot of different things from a lot of different expansions, including the scenarios that you mentioned from Mists of Pandaria, including garrisons from Warlords of Draenor, but they're making changes to them in really interesting ways. So when I talk about garrisons from Warlords of Draenor, I'm referencing Warfronts, which we're getting soon as part of the Battle for Azeroth. So the first one I think was Stromgarde, and it's interesting because basically they're saying the Horde and Alliance are struggling for control of the northern eastern kingdoms, which is the kind of last Horde area is Silvermoon. And so it's like the Horde's trying to push back towards kind of Gilneas and Undercity and everything else, and the Alliance is trying to hold their newly found territory. And so you've got this war front that is formed, and it's going to be very RTS-ish and kind of garrison-like, where you're going to go in with a group of 20. You're going to be fighting you're going to be fighting the opposing faction's commander. Each commander will be different and have different buffs and stuff. So your group of 20 then has to gather resources. You're basically almost like the peons, although there are peons that will build your buildings for you, but you're kind of going around gathering resources, having these battles, and trying to build up your kind of garrison-esque buildings. So it's just, there's so much cool stuff to be doing in this expansion. I'm kind of like, how am I going to keep up with all of this? Because it all sounds cool. It's not like Garrett and Pet battles where he's just like, ignore that part of the game. It's like, I feel like I have to do all of this.
Yeah, Warfronts sound pretty cool too. Although I was actually, this is where I was hoping it was going to be PvP, because when they first started talking about it, I'm like, oh, this sounds kind of like Winter Grasp, but there's no PvP. So
yeah,
sad
no,
day.
this is the PvE content.
I really just want Winter Grasp again. That's all I want. That's all I want. Could we get WoW Classic, but just somehow shoehorn Winter Grasp in there? I know Northrend was 2 expansions later, but could we just tack that on the WoW Classic, please? Can I get a tailor-made World of Warcraft experience to the very specific things that I want?
Yes.
All right, cool. Thank you.
So they also said that as far as Warfronts go, it's going to feel more like a special event. So that's going to help with the whole I have to do everything feeling. So it's going to be more along the lines of possibly even rotating through with things like time walking. But it's not going to be like an available all the time. Maybe not time walking. Maybe the invasions that are currently happening on the Broken Shore or Broken Isles. Sorry. So those invasions might be a little bit more akin to how Warfronts are going to work. But it's going to be an interesting experience, because it also reminds me a little bit of the whole, Mage Tower, Nether Disruptor, whatever. The buildings we have to build on the Broken Shore as part of 7.2 that was kind of a flop. Again, it seems like they're combining that with other systems they've tried in the past, and they're making something new and cool out of it. And learning lessons, which for some reason I feel like we're getting a lot of what we want and what we've asked for in this expansion. I was shocked at the number of things I thought the World of Warcraft would never do, but the fans really wanted, that somehow ended up in Battle for Azeroth. So I'm excited to see what potentially is going to come out of all of this.
Yeah, I'm very hyped. I came out of BlizzCon with World of Warcraft being the thing I was the most hyped for.
Yeah, me too, which is surprising. I think I was very hopeful when it came to Hearthstone, and then Warcraft was just like, Hearthstone, shabat, like slap them, gone, done, and like, was it Hearthstone, as far as like my hype levels are concerned, might as well have not been at BlizzCon, because Warcraft was just so overwhelmingly awesome, and they had so many cool things to show us, way more than I was ever expecting. It was like the only thing I was super, super pumped about, and it was my entire BlizzCon experience.
Yeah, I had this thing where I was like, I'm really hungry. I'm gonna go get lunch, but the Warcraft panel's starting. I don't do a regular show about this. I don't have to sit here, but I'm gonna watch it. So I just sat there and watched the whole damn thing. I was so into it. So before we go, gotta ask you, Jocelyn, World of Warcraft Classic, you gonna play it?
No.
No.
Maybe. Yes. I think, I don't know how much I'm actually how much time I'm actually going to spend in it, but the reason I'm excited about it is because I want to see the world before Kata, because I have never seen the World of Warcraft before Deathwing ripped it apart. So to see the zones that I know people talk about all the time that were so forever changed by the events of Cataclysm, I'm interested to see like Thousand Needles not flooded and, just stuff like that. So, but I realized that to see a lot of that, I'm going to have to pretty much level 1 to 60. So we'll have to see, because to me, if you say I want WoW Classic or Vanilla WoW or whatever, but I want, like any of these quality of life changes, or like I don't want to hold arrows in my bag, or, blah, 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 then you don't really want vanilla. So it's going to be interesting to see how the World of Warcraft team chooses to roll this out, and how many of the quality of life changes they actually make for the vanilla experience. If it's just vanilla Warcraft, I don't really want that experience.
Yeah, I
just want to explore. Like, I wish there was like a button I could push that was just like, give me a max level character and let me run around the world. Like a sandbox mode.
Well, maybe
but I don't think they're going to do that.
Maybe they'll allow character boosts. You don't know. We don't know. I don't know. I don't have my own personal answer.
They have a logo. That's it.
Yeah.
They don't know anything
you're
about
right.
it.
Yeah. I don't know what I want. I don't know what the happy balance is, because I don't think I want just vanilla WoW. But I also don't want it too far to modern day World of Warcraft.
Right. So where is that balance? Like, where's that sweet spot? And they still have to figure it out. I have no idea, because I didn't play vanilla, so I can't really speak to it. But from a kind of new player perspective, if it's too far, like some of the things I hear people talk about the way it was in vanilla, I'm just like, That doesn't sound fun, guys. Like, what's wrong with you? Why are you asking for this?
So for me, I think the thing I always like to bring up is how much I oddly miss meeting stones and not having the LFG tool. I have extremely fond memories, and I am owning up to the fact that these are fond memories, and they may not be as clear as I would like them to be. But I have very fond memories of spending more time than one probably should trying to assemble a 5-man group to go and do a dungeon because we didn't have the LFG tool. You'd sit in trade chat, looking for 2M, we're going into Zul'Farrak, we need a healer and a tank, because it's always a healer and a tank. That's how I ended up making sure I never played a character that couldn't tank after I swapped off my hunter. And there was something cool about that. You got to know the people you were playing with because you were spending time just sitting there waiting. A stranger would join you, and you'd still need one more stranger. Then you'd make friends with that person, and you'd get in. And even if you wiped a million times, most of the time you weren't screaming at each other. That still happened, but it was not as common as it is in almost every dungeon run now if somebody dies. And that was because of the work I think you had to put in to actually put a group together. That being said, I don't have that kind of time anymore. I can't just sit outside of a dungeon for an hour yelling, "Hey, we need a healer. Anyone want to heal? Anybody?"
Well, and we've had so many tools given to us now that I feel like our patience for doing that is just like gone. Like, I find if our team isn't assembled and ready to go for whatever it is we want to do, time walking or dungeon runs or mythic pluses or whatever, like, we give up after like 10 minutes. We're just like, oh, is anybody here? Okay, we've got 3. Well, screw it.
Yeah.
And then we go do something else. Like, there are a lot of other options now. There's a lot of, things in Warcraft that have become so easy to do. Even raiding. We have LFR now. Like, you don't even have to go to the portal into the raid. Like,
let alone find 39 other strangers.
Let alone find all the people. Yeah. So
it's I want it to exist. I really do, and I'm definitely going to at least try it out when it comes out, whatever form it takes. It does. I don't think if it matters if they say it's going to be 100% vanilla WoW. It's even going to have the old shitty graphics. We don't care. This is what it is. Go try it. Or on the opposite side of that pendulum, it has LFG, it has LFR, it has all the new things, but it doesn't go past classic. I'm gonna try whatever they give us.
Yeah, and I think I'm gonna give it a shot too. I almost wish that they just instituted more of their like instancing technology to make like vanilla WoW exist within the like current World of Warcraft. Like there are quest chains that are gone now that you can't do anymore that I wish that I could, and all that kind of stuff that I'm not 100% sure why my level 47 character can't do it, Like, why was that ever removed if I'm supposed to be playing through the game in a chronological order sort of thing? Like, it's this current WoW is this really interesting mix of, like, level 85 things have happened, but you're also supposed to believe when you're level 10 that it's that point in the world, so it's, like, in the timeline.
Yeah.
It's this really weird jumble because they've reused, so, like, I think Kata, right? They reused the original continents. So there's this really weird kind of like, why not just instance the vanilla content, and then once you progress past vanilla, then like Cataclysm happens. Like, that would make more sense to me, and that's kind of what I want. Like, current WoW and everything that goes with it, but then let me play through the original vanilla experience. I don't know why, as a new player 13 years in, I can't have the same questing experience and have the same story told. It's supposed to be like a screenshot in time, basically, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, you're right. Although at the same time, I mean, Cataclysm happened. They straight up just changed the overworld, the main portion, Kalimdor and Eastern Kingdoms changed permanently, and that's just going to happen.
Yes, yeah.
But like things like Wrathgate, I have no idea why they removed Wrathgate. I love Wrathgate. I want my friends to go experience Wrathgate.
Right, there's Wrathgate, and I think as part of Wrathgate there was the whole battle for Undercity, and like Sylvanas trying to take it back, and the Alliance trying to take it from her, and like we've had a battle for Undercity already, but it's not in the game anymore. You can't experience it, and that's really unfortunate. So
yeah, but whatever the case is, I'm still excited about World of Warcraft Classic. Katie, my wife, though, she was just like, "Oh my god, I'm playing this." So Clearly,
Yep.
I mean, there is an audience for it. I mean, private servers have shown as they've been shut down and reborn multiple times that there is an audience for this.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to it. I don't know how deep I will dive, but well, just this was fun. I'm really just jazzed for World of Warcraft again. And the timing is good. Like I'm just now waning on Legion. I'm just like, yeah, okay, I've kind of done most of what I want to do. I'm excited for the new raid, but I need a new tune to go raid with. I'm not digging my Death Knight. But beyond
I'm not as into Argus as I thought I was going to be. Obviously, I'm still raiding twice a week and doing the things that I have to do, but I'm not playing nearly as much WoW as I was. I think the leveling experience just in general and seeing that part of the story, like that is the most story-heavy experience that you get in a new expansion, right? Is when you first go in there and you get to level your characters through all of the new zones. After that, it's just like piecemeal patches, right? So I find that that's why everyone's so interested right at the beginning, and then they kind of fall off a little bit. You have to be really invested in that gameplay loop in order to keep going through the rest of the expansion. So I'm still there, but I'm not like clearing my world quests every day and doing all that. Like I was playing Warcraft every single day, and now I've kind of fallen off and I play it, 2 or 3 times a week. So I'm not quite as crazy into it as I used to be. Totally forgot where I was going with this.
We were wrapping up.
Point gone. It just was right out my head.
Yeah, I think they're moving at a good clip is the parting thought I wanted to leave everyone with. I'm excited.
Oh, right. Falling off. That was the point.
I am excited by how finished Battle for Azeroth looks and that we're getting a beta next year. So, yay, bring it on. Let's get it here soon. And let's wrap this thing up. Folks, we were doing, we brought this show back, and Extra Life has already come and gone, and it always falls on BlizzCon, which is bad for Blizzard content creators. But Jocelyn, year after year, you still, regardless of the date, find a day that works for you, and you go and do a marathon stream and raise money for the Children's Miracle Network as part of Extra Life. And, well, you've already done that, but we figured why not do this episode in service of that as well. So everyone, if you enjoyed this show, even if you didn't, you should go and donate to a good cause over at bit.ly/TGI Extra Life 2017. Go there. Joss, you guys have already raised over $4,000.
We have, yeah. We had a really, really great marathon. It was this past weekend. We played for 24 hours. We streamed for, I think, 22 of those 24 hours. We always take the first 2 hours of the day to kind of set up the stream and, eat some breakfast, play some portable titles sort of thing. So we played our 24 hours. We streamed 22 of it. It was insanely fun. It ended with us playing PUBG and dropping School. If any of you guys play PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, School is just a crazy adrenaline rush. So we were just like, School. Stay awake. Get that adrenaline pumping. But it was really, really fun. There's some great clips and stuff from it too. So we ended up raising, I think I more than doubled my goal. The team more than doubled their goal. But we do still have a few team members that haven't hit their personal goals. So if you guys are donating, please go to one of the team members who hasn't already hit their goal. I believe it was Servotech, Anna, and possibly Jim, who have not yet hit their personal goals. So if you are going to donate to the team, please go donate to one of those members. We really, really appreciate it. We had a great marathon this year. We have a great time every year, but this year was our best year ever at over $4,000 raised for the Children's Miracle Network. So yay! Extra Life.
Yeah, and donations are still open, and they will still be open for quite a while. So
yeah, they're open until the end of the year. You literally have until December 31st to donate.
Yep. So again, that is bit.ly/TGI Extra Life 2017. Thank you everyone for going and donating. Joss, before we go, where can folks find you when you're not resurrecting For Azeroth?
Well, obviously, if you're listening to the sound of my voice on this here podcast, you are a fan of World of Warcraft. So if you would like to watch our raid team, I do stream our raid on Tuesday nights. I'm trying to get into streaming more Warcraft content because I'm sure I'm going to be streaming a lot of stuff once Battle for Azeroth starts. So on Tuesdays and Sundays, I'll be streaming our actual raid content. So make sure you're following me over on twitch.tv/JossPlays.
Awesome, folks. I'm at Garrett Art on Twitter. You can go follow me there. Every podcast I do is at amove.tv. And Jocelyn and I do many other shows. Check out The Angry Chicken if you like Hearthstone, and check us out spoiling many, many different pieces of pop culture over at Embrace the Spoilers, which you can find pretty much anywhere podcasts can be found. We actually just wrapped up Thor Ragnarok, and we'll be spoiling Justice League this upcoming Monday. And I will repeat the same mantra I've been saying all week. Please don't suck. Please don't suck. Done.
Be more like Wonder Woman, less like Batman versus Superman.
Yes. Be a lot like Wonder Woman and be nothing like Batman versus Superman, other than there being a few actors that are the same.
Yeah.
Please and thank you.
I'm excited for it. I think it could be good. I'm always so hopeful when I go into these movies. We'll see.
I liked Wonder Woman. I actually liked Suicide Squad. It's blemishes. Admitted there's issues with that movie, but I like it. But yeah, I'm hoping. I've got hopes for Justice League. So tune into that. Embrace the Spoilers wherever podcasts can be found. That's going to wrap it up for this episode of For Azeroth. Don't know when we'll be back with some more Warcraft coverage, but it's going to be just on a big news basis for now. But there's plenty of other places to find us, so go and enjoy that. Until then, good luck and have fun, everyone.
For the Horde!
For the Alliance!